All right, so get this. We're going deep into the world of podcasting for entrepreneurs today.
Ooh, sounds exciting.
It is, it is. We're dissecting podcast secrets for entrepreneurs
Okay.
by John North.
All right.
And this guy's not just talking the talk. He's built a successful business using these strategies.
Oh, wow.
And you know what? You can grab a copy at getmybook.store.
All right.
They got all sorts of formats, ebooks, audiobooks, you name it.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, what I find really interesting is that he doesn't just tell you to start a podcast. He shows you how to make it profitable.
Oh, okay.
He actually transformed his struggling software company into a global player using many of these principles.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But hold on. But before I get lost in dreams of podcasting empires, why should an entrepreneur even bother with podcasting in the first place? Isn't it a lot of work for maybe a few more followers?
That's a great question, but think about this. In 2022, over 22% of Americans over 50 were listening to podcasts.
Right.
That's a massive audience,
All right.
and they're often overlooked by businesses. And it's not just about followers. It's about building a loyal community of potential customers who trust you and your expertise.
Okay, I'm starting to see the potential here.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, the tech side can be a little intimidating. What about those RSS feeds?
Yes.
Everyone talks about them. They sound like something out of Star Wars.
I know, right? They sound complex.
Yeah.
But think of it as your podcast's backstage pass to all the major platforms. It's basically how you get your show listed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the big names.
Oh.
The book actually breaks it down in a way that's easy to understand.
Okay.
But more importantly, it highlights a common mistake, forgetting those crucial tags.
Those tags.
They're like keywords that help people find your podcast.
Oh, so it's kind of like SEO, but for podcasts.
Exactly. It's all about discoverability.
Makes sense.
Yeah?
Okay, but how do you make sure you're creating content that actually resonates with your target audience?
Yeah.
There are millions of podcasts out there.
Right. And that's where nailing your niche comes in.
Okay.
One of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make is trying to be everything to everyone.
Right, sure.
You have to laser focus on who your ideal listener is.
Okay.
Their pain points, aspirations, what keeps them up at night.
Okay, so it's not just picking a topic, but really understanding that specific listener.
Exactly.
How do you even go about doing that?
Well, the book has some really clever techniques, like using Twitter searches to see what people are already talking about,
Oh, interesting.
what questions they're asking, what problems they're facing within your industry. It's about tapping into those conversations
I accept.
and positioning your podcast as the answer they've been searching for.
That's genius. It's like market research, but for your podcast.
Exactly.
But once you know who you're talking to, how do you actually plan out the content? It seems like a lot to keep track of.
It is, and that's why you need a content calendar. It's like your podcast's roadmap to success.
Okay, okay.
The book walks you through
Right.
figuring out how often you release episodes, how long they should be, and most importantly, what topics will really resonate with your audience.
All right, content calendar. Got it. Now, this might sound shallow, but how do you get those high-profile guests everyone seems to have on their podcasts?
That's a great question. Jay has a whole section on that.
Oh, perfect.
He lays out a guest management system
Okay.
with landing pages, application forms, even pre-interview surveys.
Wow.
It makes the whole process much smoother, and it makes you look super professional.
I love anything that makes me look more professional. But what if I'm not exactly rolling in dough? Can I still create a podcast that sounds amazing without breaking the bank?
Absolutely. You don't need a fancy studio. John dedicates a whole section to choosing the right microphone for your budget,
Okay.
and even how to set up a recording space to minimize those pesky echoes and background noise. You'd be surprised what you can achieve.
Right.
With a little creativity and a few clever tricks.
So I could sound like a pro even if I'm recording in, like, my walk-in closet.
You might be surprised.
All right, I'll keep that in mind.
And then there's editing magic. The book goes into techniques like noise reduction and mastering that can take your audio from meh to wow, all without spending a ton of money on software.
Okay, so we've got killer content, a great recording setup, maybe even snagged a celebrity guest or two.
Nice.
Now, how do we get this podcast out there into the world? It feels like a jungle out there.
It can be, but John gives you a step-by-step guide through it all. He guides you through choosing the right hosting platform, optimizing for search engines, and using social media like a pro to promote your episodes.
Okay, so it's not just posting a link and hoping for the best.
Definitely not. There's a whole strategy behind it.
What are some of the specific things he recommends?
One thing that stood out was his advice on creating eye-catching podcast assets like media kits and one-sheets. They're like your podcast's resume,
Yeah.
highlighting all the amazing things about your show and why people should listen.
Okay, that makes sense.
Uh,
It's like a mini marketing campaign for your podcast.
exactly.
But let's get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
How do we actually make money from all of this? Because let's be real, we're all entrepreneurs here.
I hear you. Get ready to take notes because John breaks down all sorts of monetization strategies. We're talking advertising, affiliate marketing, memberships, even turning your podcast into a book. There's a model for everyone.
Wait, hold on. Turning your podcast into a book. Tell me more about that.
It's a genius way to repurpose your content and reach a whole new audience. And guess what? The book walks you through the entire process, from choosing the right episodes to crafting a compelling narrative. It even includes a sample script
Oh, nice.
for landing those win-win partnerships that can really grow your audience and revenue.
That's impressive. But it can't all be smooth sailing, right?
Mm,
What about ethical considerations and dealing with negative feedback?
you're right. It's not always sunshine and roses. But John tackles those things head on. He emphasizes transparency with sponsors and respecting your listeners' privacy. He also gives practical advice on handling negative feedback in a way that strengthens your brand.
So it's about being prepared for the curveballs and knowing how to handle them gracefully and professionally.
Exactly.
Okay, now I'm really curious about the future of podcasting. What does John say about that?
Get ready to have your mind blown because his predictions are wild.
Get me with them.
Okay, think video podcasts, AI-powered content creation, and the world of owning your own platform on social media. He even shares his vision for these next-generation all-in-one business systems.
Wow, that sounds like a whole other deep dive.
It is.
But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Right.
let's break down some of these key concepts a little further.
Let's do it.
What really stood out to me was John's emphasis on building a strong personal brand
Yes.
through podcasting.
Absolutely.
What resonated with you from that section?
You know, it was the emphasis on authenticity and consistency.
Right.
He really stresses that your podcast should reflect your unique personality and expertise, not just be a copycat of what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, I agree. Authenticity is key.
Right, and he's not just saying be yourself. He actually gives you practical tips for defining your brand message and making sure your content aligns with your values.
And consistency is so important too, right? It's about showing up regularly, delivering valuable content, and building that trust with your listeners over time.
Absolutely. Consistency is key.
Yeah.
He even provides a template for planning out your episodes.
Oh, that's helpful.
So you're not scrambling for ideas at the last minute. And he includes a sample script for introducing your podcast and captivating your audience right from the start. I thought that was really helpful.
Oh, those sample scripts are gold. They take the guesswork out of it
Oh, right.
and give you that solid framework to work with.
Speaking of captivating your audience,
Yeah.
the book has a whole section on crafting these compelling podcast intros. It does, and what better example than his own origin story? He breaks down how he uses storytelling to connect with listeners and create a memorable experience. He even shares his super ambitious goals for his software company, XYZ Computer Services.
Yeah, that's inspiring.
It's inspiring to see how he set such high standards for his team and built a company culture that fosters success.
Yeah, it's a great reminder that success isn't just about the idea, it's about execution
Yes,
and the people you surround yourself with.
exactly.
But how do you translate that big picture vision into something actionable for your podcast?
That's where setting SMART goals comes in.
Oh.
The book emphasizes being specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound with your podcast goals.
Yeah, I love that framework.
Yeah,
It makes it much more manageable.
it does. And he gives you these thought-provoking questions to guide you through the process.
Yeah.
Questions like, what do you want your listeners to walk away with? And how will your podcast contribute to your overall business goals?
Those are great questions to ask yourself. It's about making sure your podcast is aligned with your bigger vision, not just something you're doing on the side.
Exactly. It's about leveraging your podcast to achieve those goals, whether that's building your brand, generating leads, or even driving sales.
Speaking of attracting those ideal listeners, The book has some fascinating insights
Yes.
on how to find and engage with your target audience.
It does, and he really encourages you to go beyond those basic demographics, age and location,
Right.
and really delve into the psychographics of your ideal listener.
Okay.
It's about understanding their interests, motivations, and even their frustrations on a much deeper level.
It's like getting inside their heads,
Right.
figuring out what makes them tick.
Exactly. And he provides some really effective techniques for doing this, like analyzing Twitter searches to see what people are talking about, what questions they're asking, what problems they're struggling with within your industry.
That's such a good idea. It's about being strategic with your research and understanding your target market on a much deeper level.
Exactly. And once you have that clear picture of your ideal listener, the book guides you through creating content that speaks directly to their needs and interests.
It's like creating those aha moments that make listeners feel like you're reading their minds.
That's exactly it. And that's what keeps them coming back for more. But creating great content is just the first step.
Right.
You also need to sound like a pro when you're recording those episodes.
Okay, let's talk about that. What kind of tips does the book offer for creating that high-quality audio, even if you're on a budget?
Well, one of the things I find really helpful was his advice on choosing the right microphone.
Okay.
He breaks it down based on different budgets and needs, so you don't have to spend a fortune to get great sound.
And even covers how to set up a recording space, right?
He does, to minimize those echoes and background noise. He even talks about using things like sound-absorbing foam and suggests, get this, using a closet
Oh, wow.
as a makeshift recording booth if you're on a really tight budget.
That's so resourceful. I love that.
I know, right?
So you've got your recording set up, then the book walks you through editing, right?
It does. He covers techniques like noise reduction, compression, and mastering
Okay.
to polish your audio and make it sound professional.
All right, so you've recorded the episodes, edited them, they're sounding amazing.
Yes.
Now, how do you get them out there for the world to hear?
That's where choosing the right hosting platform comes in.
Okay.
And the book breaks down the key features to consider, from distribution reach and ease of use to analytics and even monetization options.
So it's not just about picking the cheapest option, it's about finding the platform that really supports your podcasting vision
Exactly.
and helps you grow.
He emphasizes choosing a platform that aligns with your goals.
Okay.
Whether that's reaching a wider audience, tracking your progress, or even monetizing your podcast down the line.
Got it. So once you've chosen your platform, how do you actually get people to listen? What are some effective strategies for promoting your podcast?
Well, he covers a wide range of promotional tactics, from optimizing your podcast for search engines to leveraging social media and even creating those eye-catching podcast assets we talked about earlier.
So it's about creating a buzz and getting your podcast in front of the right people.
Exactly. He emphasizes the importance of building a strong online presence and engaging with your audience across multiple platforms. He even suggests creating a dedicated website or a landing page for your podcast.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's like creating a home base for your podcast where people can learn more about you, listen to episodes, and even connect with you on social media.
It is, and he provides really helpful tips for designing a website that's both informative and engaging.
Okay, before we move on, I think it's important to talk about the ethical side of podcasting.
Absolutely.
There's some considerations there as well.
Definitely. It's crucial to approach podcasting with integrity and respect for your listeners.
And the book dedicates a whole chapter to that, right?
It does. He talks about being transparent with your listeners, about things like sponsorships and affiliations, respecting their privacy, and being mindful of copyright laws.
It's about building trust with your audience and making sure your podcast is a positive and ethical space.
Exactly. And he provides clear guidelines and examples to help you navigate these important aspects.
That's really reassuring. Now let's talk about the money.
Okay, let's do it. Get ready to unlock the secrets to turning your podcast into a profitable venture.
All right, so let's dive into turning your passion into profit.
Okay, let's do it.
John explores a whole bunch of different ways to monetize, but what really stood out to me was the idea of memberships and subscriptions.
Oh, okay.
It's like creating a VIP club.
I like that.
For your most loyal listeners.
Okay. Yeah.
How does that work?
So think of it like Patreon or those membership sites.
Right.
You see popping up everywhere these days, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're basically offering exclusive content, bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes access, maybe even like a private community forum,
Oh, okay.
all for a monthly or annual fee.
So you're giving those super fans a way to support you and get even more value in return.
Exactly. And it also creates a more predictable revenue stream,
Right.
compared to just relying on advertising or sponsorships.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like building in a recurring revenue model right into your podcast.
Exactly.
But what about those of us who aren't quite ready to launch a full-blown membership program? What are some other options we could start with?
Well, John talks about affiliate marketing. It's a great way to kind of dip your toes into the monetization waters.
Okay.
Basically, you recommend products or services that you love on your podcast.
Right.
And you earn a commission every time someone makes a purchase through your unique link.
Oh, so it's like a win-win-win.
It is.
Yeah. You get to share stuff you're genuinely excited about. Listeners get access to valuable recommendations.
Right.
And you earn a little something in the process.
Exactly. And the book walks you through the
Yeah.
whole thing, from finding the right affiliate programs
Okay.
to crafting those compelling calls to action that get people clicking.
That's something I definitely want to look into more.
Yeah, me too.
But what about people who dream of becoming a published author?
Hmm.
Can you really turn a podcast into a book?
You absolutely can. And John lays out a step-by-step process for doing just that.
Wow.
He talks about choosing the right episodes to adapt,
Okay.
structuring your book in a way that's engaging,
Right.
and even navigating the whole publishing process, which can be a little daunting.
Yeah, that is a little intimidating.
It can be, but he breaks it down into manageable steps.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like taking your podcast to a whole new level and reaching a whole new audience.
Absolutely. And it's a great way to solidify your authority and build your brand even further.
So we've got memberships, affiliate marketing, even books.
Right.
Now, what about the more traditional methods like advertising and sponsorships?
He covers those too, but he really encourages you to think beyond just slapping an ad on your podcast.
Okay.
It's about finding sponsors that align with your values and audience,
Right, so it feels authentic and valuable
Exactly.
to everybody.
He gives great advice on how to approach potential sponsors,
Okay.
negotiate rates, and integrate those ads seamlessly
Right.
without disrupting the flow of your podcast.
It's all about the listener experience.
It is.
Yeah.
And he even stresses the importance of being transparent with your listeners about sponsored content,
Yeah.
which helps to build trust.
Right. Transparency is key.
Absolutely.
So beyond the monetization piece, how can we really maximize the reach and impact of our podcast? What else does he talk about?
Well, he talks a lot about guest interviews.
Okay.
Having high-profile guests can boost your credibility and attract new listeners.
Right.
But the question is,
How do you snag those sought-after guests?
exactly,
Yeah.
that's the million-dollar question.
Well, John provides a ton of practical advice.
Okay.
Everything from identifying potential guests
Okay.
who align with your podcast's theme to crafting those compelling pitches
Right?
that grab their attention. He even talks about setting up a system
Oh, interesting.
for handling guest applications and scheduling,
Yeah.
which can really streamline the whole process,
Makes sense.
make you look super professional.
It's all about the systems, right? For everything.
It is.
It's about creating that smooth and enjoyable experience for
Yeah.
both you and your guests.
Absolutely.
So beyond the guest interviews, what are some other ways to amplify your podcast's reach?
Well, social media is a big one, of course.
Right, but how do you use it effectively without getting lost in the noise?
That's the key.
Right.
And John stresses the importance of owning your platform.
Okay.
Things like building an email list.
Creating your own website or landing page?
Yeah.
He sees those as crucial for long-term success.
It's about having a place where you're in control
Exactly.
rather than relying on the whims of social media.
Exactly. And he gives a ton of tips
Well,
for using social media strategically, like creating those eye-catching audiograms, sharing behind-the-scenes content, and even running contests and giveaways
Oh, okay, those are good ideas.
to engage your audience.
Yeah, it's about creating that buzz
It is.
and getting people excited about your podcast. Now, I'm a little camera shy.
Okay.
Does that mean I can't do video podcasting?
Not at all.
Okay.
John actually gives really practical tips for overcoming those camera jitters
Good.
and creating high-quality video content, even if you're on a budget.
So it's not about having the fancy equipment or being a professional YouTuber or anything like that.
No, not for
It's about connecting in a different way.
Exactly. Giving your listeners the option to consume your content
Right.
in the way that they prefer.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so beyond video podcasting, What are some other future trends that are shaping this landscape? I mean, this industry seems to be evolving at lightning speed.
It is, and John has a whole section on exploring those emerging trends.
Oh, perfect.
Some of his predictions are mind-blowing.
All right, hit me with it. I'm ready.
Well, get ready for AI-powered podcasting.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Imagine having an AI assistant that helps you generate content ideas, transcribe your episodes, even create those audiograms we talked about.
That would be amazing. That would free up so much time for podcasters to really focus on the creative side of things.
Exactly. And he even talks about the potential of AI for personalizing the listening experience.
Okay.
So imagine podcast apps that use AI to recommend episodes based on your individual interests and listening history.
It's like having a personal podcast concierge.
Exactly.
That is really cool. But what about people who are a little, wary of AI taking over the world?
I get it, and John acknowledges those concerns. But he sees AI as a tool that can empower podcasters, not replace them.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah.
It's about using technology to enhance the human connection, not eliminate it.
Absolutely.
So what else? What other trends are we looking at?
Well, get ready for the rise of blockchain technology and Web3.
Ooh, okay, blockchain, huh? How does that apply to podcasting?
Imagine a future where podcasters can use blockchain to monetize their content directly without having to rely on those middlemen, like advertisers or platforms.
That would be revolutionary.
It would.
That would give so much control to podcasters over their revenue.
It would, and it's not just about the money. Blockchain could also enable things like tokenized rewards for loyal listeners, and even decentralized podcasting platforms that are owned and governed by the community.
My mind is officially blown. These are some really exciting possibilities. But what can we as podcasters do to prepare for this rapidly evolving future?
That's a great question, and John emphasizes staying informed, being adaptable,
Right.
and focusing on building those authentic relationships with your listeners.
Right.
He believes those connections will be even more valuable in the future,
Yeah.
no matter what technological advancements come our way.
That's reassuring. It's about focusing on that human element.
It is.
And building a strong foundation that can weather any storm.
That's it. And it all comes back to that core message of podcasting. Sharing your voice, connecting with others, and making a difference in the world.
Okay, that's inspiring. Let's bring it back down to earth for a second, though.
Okay.
And talk about creating that compelling content that resonates with listeners. That's kind of the foundation of everything.
It is. Content is king, as they say.
So what makes content truly compelling? What does John say about that?
Well, he really emphasizes knowing your audience inside and out.
Right.
It's not just picking a topic,
Right.
but understanding your ideal listeners' needs, interests, and even their frustrations.
Yeah, got to get in their heads. Figure out what they're thinking about, what they're struggling with.
Exactly. And that's where nailing your niche comes in.
Okay.
It's about becoming that go-to resource for a specific group of people and providing them with that valuable information, solutions that they can't find anywhere else.
Yeah, it's about being specific.
It is.
And targeted.
Right.
Rather than trying to appeal to everyone.
Exactly.
Okay, so once you know who you're talking to, how do you come up with those amazing content ideas that keep people coming back for more?
That's the key.
Yeah.
Well, John gives a ton of tips and techniques for brainstorming content.
Okay.
Everything from analyzing your audience's questions and pain points to looking at industry trends and even incorporating your own personal experiences and insights.
I like that.
Right.
It's about being creative and resourceful.
It is.
And not being afraid to experiment.
Yeah.
With different formats and styles. What about the actual process of creating and structuring those episodes?
Well, he breaks down the entire process from developing a content calendar to planning out individual episodes.
Okay.
He even talks about crafting those attention-grabbing titles and descriptions that make people want to hit play.
It's not just about having the great content.
Right.
It's about presenting it in a way that's enticing.
Exactly.
But easy to digest.
Yes. And he even encourages you to experiment with different content types, like interviews, solo episodes, Q&A sessions, even incorporating storytelling.
Yeah, I love that.
To make it more engaging and memorable.
Keep things fresh and exciting.
It does.
For both you and your listeners.
Absolutely.
But let's be honest, the technical side of podcasting can be a little intimidating.
I know.
For those of us who aren't audio engineers or anything,
right.
What kind of guidance does the book offer in that area?
Don't worry, John's got you covered.
Okay, good.
He demystifies all those technical aspects.
Oh.
From choosing the right microphone and recording software to setting up your recording space.
Right.
And even mastering your audio for that professional polish.
Okay, so he walks you through every step, even if you're a complete beginner.
He does. He does.
Which is helpful for a lot of people.
Yes.
Because it can be really overwhelming.
It can.
If you don't know what you're doing.
It can.
And he gives clear explanation and instructions so you don't have to feel lost in all the jargon.
Right.
That's a huge relief.
It is.
All right, so now you've got your audio sounding fantastic.
Yes.
How do you get your podcast out there and attract listeners?
That's where promotion comes in.
Okay.
And John covers a whole range of strategies from optimizing your podcast for search engines to leveraging social media, email marketing, even collaborating with other podcasters.
It's about having that multi-pronged approach.
It is.
Right. Get it out there everywhere.
Yes.
In front of as many people as possible.
He even provides templates.
Oh, nice.
For creating eye-catching podcast assets.
Okay.
Like media kits.
Right.
And one-sheets to help you promote your show effectively.
Those are great resources. It's about presenting your podcast professionally.
Professionally.
And compellingly.
Yeah.
So that people say, oh, I want to listen to that.
Exactly.
But beyond those promotional tactics, what are some other things podcasters can do to stand out in what is a really crowded landscape?
Well, one thing John emphasizes is building a strong brand and online presence for your podcast.
Okay, but how do you do that? What are some specific things?
Well, he suggests creating a dedicated website or landing page for your podcast where people can learn more about you, listen to episodes, subscribe to your email list, and connect with you on social media.
It's like creating a central hub for your podcast.
It is. It is.
A place where you're in control and you can really showcase what you're all about.
Exactly. And it can also help you attract new listeners and build a loyal following.
So beyond the brand building piece, what are some other things podcasters can do to really connect with their listeners and create like a thriving community around their show?
John talks a lot about engagement.
Yeah.
Building those authentic relationships with your listeners.
Right.
He suggests things like responding to comments and messages.
Okay.
Hosting live Q&A sessions, and even creating a private community.
Oh, wow.
For your most dedicated fans.
It's about going beyond just creating the great content.
It is.
And really fostering that sense of connection.
Yes.
And belonging.
And belonging, exactly.
Yeah.
He provides a lot of actionable tips.
Good.
For how to do that.
But let's be real. Not all feedback is positive.
Right.
How do you deal with negative comments and even those potential crises that come with putting yourself out there online?
That's a great question, and John doesn't shy away from those tough topics.
Okay.
He provides really practical advice on how to handle criticism gracefully, manage social media backlash, and even navigate those potentially damaging situations that could impact your reputation.
It's about having a plan.
It is.
Right. Being prepared for those curveballs.
Yes.
And knowing how to address them effectively.
He reminds us that not everyone will love your podcast.
Right.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
What matters is how you respond to those who aren't your biggest fans.
It's about approaching those situations with professionalism.
Yes.
And using them as opportunities to learn and grow.
Exactly. So are you ready to delve into the exciting world of turning your passion into profit?
Let's talk about the money. Okay, so let's talk money. Everyone wants to know how to turn their podcast into a profitable venture. What are some of the key monetization strategies that John lays out?
Well, he covers a pretty wide range, you know, from the traditional advertising and sponsorship route to like more innovative models like memberships, affiliate marketing, and even turning your podcast into a book.
Right.
But what I really appreciate is he doesn't just present these ideas. He goes into the pros and cons of each.
Okay.
So you have a realistic perspective on what to expect.
It's about finding what aligns with your goals and your audience.
Exactly. So, for example, with advertising and sponsorships, he emphasizes finding sponsors that are a good fit for your values and audience.
Right. It's got to be authentic. You don't want to alienate your listeners.
Exactly. And he gives really practical advice on like how to approach potential sponsors, how to negotiate rates, and even how to integrate ads seamlessly into your episodes, you know, so it doesn't disrupt the flow of the listening experience.
It's all about the listener.
It is. It is. And he even talks about being transparent with your listeners about sponsored content.
Right, which builds trust.
Which builds trust and credibility.
That's key.
It is.
But what about people who are a little, hesitant to jump into the world of advertising? Are there other options for monetizing your podcast?
There are. Affiliate marketing is a great way to kind of dip your toes in without feeling like you're selling out.
Yeah.
Basically, you recommend products or services that you love and use, and you get a commission if your listeners make a purchase through your unique link.
So you're basically getting paid to share your recommendations, which is awesome.
It is a win-win.
That's great. I'm definitely adding that to my list.
Yeah.
But what about those who dream of seeing your podcast, like turned into a book? Is that actually a viable option?
It is. It is. And John dedicates a whole section to that. He sees it as a brilliant way to repurpose your content.
Oh, yeah.
Reach a wider audience and establish yourself as an expert.
It's like taking it to the next level.
It is. It is. And he walks you through the entire process.
Good.
From choosing the right episodes to adapt, to structuring your book in a way that's engaging and informative. He even covers the publishing process, from finding an editor to promoting your book.
He holds your hand through the whole thing. That's great.
He does.
But what about people who are looking for something a little more recurring, more predictable in terms of income? What about memberships and subscriptions?
He's a huge fan of memberships.
Okay.
He sees them as a way to create a deeper connection with your listeners and provide them with that exclusive content and perks that they're willing to pay for.
It's like building that VIP club.
It is.
For your super fans.
Exactly. And he gives a step-by-step guide to setting up a membership program.
Okay.
From choosing the platform to creating those membership tiers, and even nurturing those relationships to ensure long-term success.
So you're really fostering a sense of community there.
You are. Yeah. And it can be so rewarding,
Right.
to connect with your listeners on that level.
Absolutely.
And to know that they're not just passively consuming your content, they're actively supporting you.
Right. They're invested.
They are.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to something you mentioned before.
Yeah.
John's emphasis on joint ventures and collaboration.
Yes.
Why does he see those as being so important?
He's a big believer in the power of partnerships. He sees joint ventures as a way to amplify your reach, tap into new audiences, and create those win-win relationships where everyone benefits.
Working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. And he gives advice on how to find the right partners, how to craft compelling proposals, and how to structure those agreements, to ensure a successful collaboration.
So as we wrap up here, exploring podcast secrets for entrepreneurs, what are some of the key takeaways our listeners should remember?
This book is full of insights and strategies and inspiration for anyone who wants to launch or grow a podcast that really makes a difference in their business.
It's a great guide.
It is. It emphasizes having that clear vision, knowing your audience, creating that compelling content, building a strong brand, and leveraging the power of community.
And community, yes.
It's so important.
Yeah, I agree.
And it provides practical guidance, on every aspect of podcasting.
Yeah.
From the technical details to the strategic elements. And it always emphasizes authenticity, integrity, and connection.
And that's what it's all about, right?
It is.
Connecting with people.
Yes.
Sharing your voice, your expertise.
Absolutely.
And just, making a difference.
Exactly. And if you're ready to dive into this book yourself and unlock those podcasting secrets, you can find Podcast Secrets for Entrepreneurs in a variety of formats at getmybook.store.
Perfect.
They've got everything from ebooks and audiobooks to physical copies and even special bundles.
So head over to getmybook.store, grab a copy, and start building that podcast that not only attracts listeners, but really fuels your entrepreneurial success. It's been amazing exploring this book with you.
Thanks for having me. It's been a great conversation.
Until next time.